internet, right? Because of that, we want the best content that is safe for the people, in which the better for themselves too, right? And because of that, Site OG proposed today's debate. What is our stances here? It's pretty simple. 2 points. First, we want our audiences and user of the social media or websites to be safe. But secondly, we want the best for social media, making it at least one step ahead to the final family media to express ourselves, right? And it's also pretty simple. 2 points. First, as someone who is able to pass regulations under will ban these rights who are enabling the proliferations of eating disorders, right? But second point is that what we enable proliferations is as in like showing an extreme eating habit, like eating a really small amount, like a minimum amount of food in order for you to get a skinny and like hot body or something, and or like eating so much food saying that it is okay to eat as much as you want because it is your own body, right? We actually regret this kind of proliferations of eating disorders, and that is why Site OG proposed to ban this kind of websites and social medias, right? Picturizations on the rest of the house is also pretty simple. Firstly, the moment these regulations are out, on the rest of the house, companies like TikTok, for instances, Facebook or Instagram, and any other platform are aware of these issues, right? Eating disorders. But secondly, not only that, content creators are also exposed to these issues the moment we implement the policies, because obviously these companies did not want their company to get banned. But thirdly, we said that users are no longer or massively decreased to the exposure of these sensitive issues or content in the social media or the websites, which is the ED or the eating disorders, right? We protect the audiences better under the house, but secondly, we create a better and safer place in websites and social media. How we can create a better and safer place in websites, how we will trigger the incentive for the social media to improve themselves better as our positive outcome under our side of the house, right? On to my first argument, how we can actually protect the audiences, right? But firstly, what do these websites and social media that enable the proliferations of eating disorders look like? Right? Usually two types, as what I explained before. For example, like eating too much food, or even like they show extreme diets to achieve an extreme body figures, like the standard of body of a model who do an extreme diet, for instance, is extremely skinny for a woman, or even like extremely muscular for men, right? Then what is the problem, right? We say that the problem is it triggers the audiences to actually mirror those habits, right? Leading them to show symptoms of eating disorders. What does this look like? This look like they will mirror that just because in these websites or social media, it shows that it somehow say that, oh, you will have this guaranteed result of a skinny body, for instances, which these audiences main goal in their life, for instances, right? Or even because it normalized and we say that it will actually trigger these audiences to actually mirror what they see on the internet, right? That's what I mentioned earlier also in my opening, where we say within the status quo that people have this tendency to actually believe on what they see in the internet, right? Because they basically are already super close with the internet, right? Or even because it normalized and pops up in your For You page daily, for instances, right? And so and then how do we Site OG solve this, right? We said that it is actually pretty simple, because under our side of the house, we will actually ban these websites or social medias that enable these proliferations, right? We told you that the proliferations is harmful, and because of that, we want to ban the websites or social media that enables it, right? We said it is harmful because of two things. First, you are letting something that have the ability to enable the proliferations of eating disorders. But secondly, the websites or the social media will not take responsibility about it, because it shows, and we said that it shows the act of negligence under the opposition bench, right? Comparatively, what will happen under opposition bench is that this kind of content will still be floating around the website and social media, because they did not have any regulations towards this sensitive topics, this sensitive content, which is eating disorder, right? Proceeding to the concern, right? Then the concern and the question might be, oh, it will be in media to grow social discussion about eating this problem, right? We said our preemptive response is We have two preemptive responses at first. No, it will not, because most people will be persuaded by it, and people who deny it will be canceled within the society because they are seen as someone who, quote unquote, not normal, just because they deny the fact that eating tons of food is unjustified. Because basically, people in the society are, taking a look at the same content in the social media, right? But secondly, we believe there are many other platforms like websites that say how to prevent eating disorders, or this is what eating disorder symptoms look like. We believe that this is different from the website that enable eating disorders because it preventing, not enabling, right? So we say social discussion will still happen outside the house, right? Then the second concern might say that, oh, it will make a difference for the society. For example, like Nico Kado is a difference effort for the society, right? We say that two responses. First, it is only a minimum amount of those who actually present the bad effects of eating too much or eating too little, right? And some of them are hated and some people don't want to see them anyway. Leading to B, meaning that these people will choose to see someone who given guaranteed, quote unquote, guaranteed benefits. It's just the same, it's still enabling eating disorders anyway, right? This is not solved under opposition bench. But moving on to my second point of argument, how we will actually create a better and safer place in websites and social media as our positive outcome, right? But because panels do notice that this policy is sick and it is not actually a game. It is strict, and who own this platform will be, of course, don't want to lose their assets, which is this platform itself, right? The social media, right? Then what is the problem? We said that many websites did not filter their content and the content that they provided to the society, right? Subconsciously showing content that is sensitive, like eating disorder, for instances. A lot of people are triggered, right? Not only that people mirror the websites or social media, what the social media showed to them, but it also triggered those who already exposed or suffered with eating disorders, right? So the harms is that first, you are triggering people to have an eating disorder, but secondly, triggering those who have eating disorder, right? We said we can actually solve this. The moment we implement this under outside the house, obviously, social media company or website owners are aware. They don't want to get banned, and this will lead them to having a more strict policies in it, which means that it creates an incentive for the social media company to filter out their content, right? We said that this will also trigger a social discourse because the moment this company implementing this.
Okay, sorry for Mojanugraha, your time is up. Time spent by the first speaker of the opening government is 7 minutes, 20 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes, 20 seconds. To oppose the case from the government, let us invite the first speaker of the opening opposition with Ms. Naila Putria. Time is yours.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The thing that I want to address first is me responding to the government side. Is I actually believe that most of people already know what's good for themselves. Also, there's a thing actually called algorithms, website ads, things like that are mostly popping out when a person seeing it have for one or two times have searched similar things before. And along with those lines, I would say that it's not actually 100% the website's faults equal to it's not that necessary to actually go as far as banning them. And going with the slide. In the first point, knowing what's good for themselves means that most of people using websites, social medias, internet in general, is maybe it's true that they are trying to find their safe place there, risking from the reality. But it's also the same for other people also. People, I think people have their own rights to share what actually they want to share. Like, their menu for lunch, breakfasting, so food is actually not a big deal for some people, but maybe it's also a problem for No, thank you. It's not a really problem for and it's going on with the second point. It's not the 100% the website fault. The website fault is all because, like what I've said before, everyone does have their own rights to post anything as long as it's not illegal, in my thought. People do have their own preference. And some people prefer sharing a lot of things on the internet website, as an example, is for their own free. Yes, Mr.
Here. Look, don't you think your quote unquote rights are egotistical because you don't clearly think about the benevolent impact that happens to the viewers in the near
Excuse me, can you repeat that one more time?
future? Look, don't you think your quote unquote rights are egotistical because you don't clearly think about the benevolent impact that could happen to the viewers in the near future if they do pay attention to your quote unquote illegal rights?
It's not like that they don't think about, it's not like that we don't think about the viewers that actually seeing the content. But like what I've said before, it's actually the same. It's the algorithm. We can't 100% blame the website. We can't blame the person posting it, because if we say so, there will be too much limited. There will be too much limits for people in the internet. When the internet itself, we can say that there's yes, Mr.
So you basically think that we should actually ban them because of the algorithms, right?
No, I'm not blaming the algorithm, because it is what it is. I don't think blaming the website, I mean, it's not 100% the website's fault itself, and it's okay. Oh, it's not necessary in my mind. It's not necessary to go as far as banning them. The people, in my first point, I say that the people, as the user of the website things and people in the internet, they particularly know what actually good for themselves and what they prefer to see. That's what I meant about algorithm, because the algorithm itself mostly is when people search one thing, one or two similar things, the next day, when they want to search another thing, the things that they have searched before, it will popping up again. And that's how it works. That's why it's actually, in fact, it's actually kind of hard to imagine random things like eating this, like food, extreme diet tips and WhatsApp just popping out of nowhere to people's screen without them actually interest. Without them have any interest with those articles in the first place. Yeah, I think that's all from me. That's all the point from me. But there still will be more point added from my deputy association. Thank you.
Okay. Time spent by the first speaker of the opening appreciation is 8 minutes 25 seconds. I repeat, 8 minutes 25 seconds. Next, to close the case from the opening government, let us invite the second speaker of the opening government with Ms. Nayara Damaris. Time is yours.
All right, am I audible? Yeah, okay. POI preference, you guys can just interrupt me through audio, just shout POI or point of information and such. Gender pronouns she, her. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. 3 things I'm going to bring on this debate is that first, the clash, why this kind of websites is still unjustified. But then secondly, some extension and arguments on my speech. But then thirdly, to win this debate, I'm going to compare our bench to other benches in this debate, right? Notice that I'm going to do the first thing about the clash. Why this kind of websites that enable the proliferation of eating disorders is still unjustified, even though site OO give you other benefits that is overshadowed by this harms X, right? Notice that the first thing that they say to you that, oh, people know what's good for themselves, right? People can be independent and things, right? First of all, this is not true. Most of them do not know this. That's why there are a 15-year-old girl making a super skinny model as their guidance to a quote-unquote a perfect body shape that society should praise, right? Just because this model got tons of praise from the audience, from the comment section, right? But then thirdly, they never give you a likelihood of this, right? They never explain this. In the circumstances, this becomes somewhat normalized. Notice these panels. It becomes normal. People notice that people will no longer know what's good or bad inside the internet, inside the websites, right? But even if they knew, we believe, we guarantee it's not from their own pure incentive, because it's already affected by the comment section and all of these quote unquote guaranteed results that this model or even a gym inspector do promote in their websites or in their social media, for example, right? But then second thing that they told us is that, oh, people have their own rights of what they want. Panels, what you have noticed this, why using drugs is illegal even if it's people's rights to do anything? Yes, because it is harming other people's right. This website is enabling proliferation of the eating disorders, right? Notice that this website is harming those people's rights to live without fear, to live without insecurities. On your side, on your bench, these people will live in insecurities and triggering them to eat a lot of food or to like doing an extreme diets that is harmful for their bodies or even their health, right? Notice that why we ban this in the very first place, because it's principally unjustified, because it's harming other people's rights in the society, the audience, and such, right? Do notice again, they never explain you why this site is still important despite the negative outcome that is over dominating these industries, right? But then thirdly, they said, oh, it's not the website's fault. Notice that it's still the website's fault, even if it's not 100% the website's fault. Why? Because the website never or these companies never filtered out this kind of like harming content, like this website that enable eating proliferation, eating disorders, for example, right? These websites acts negligence, as my first speaker already told to you. Notice that this still occurred as the website's fault, even if it's not 100% true, right? But then moving to the second point, second thing about my extension and argument, then notice this, why it is more likely to affect the audience, even if closing government say, even closing opposition say that, oh, it is not guaranteed. First, it is normalized in the website and the social media and the communities within this kind of problems, right? Because it pops up frequently on your TikTok FYP, for example, right? Because it's like, it's actually, phone is your best friend in this time, right? And notice that you are frequently to see this kind of advertisement, to see this kind of content because you feel bored or something, right? But then secondly, it shows guaranteed results of a good body, for example, right? Like skinny body if you do this extreme diet, or a muscular body if you eat a lot of protein and such, right? Notice that it will persuade viewers more, but notice that this content never give you a bad perspective of what the harms that will happen if these extreme diets are like actually be failed in the very first place, right? Notice that these websites are acting negligence by not filtering this, right? Notice that only we, not only that we have co-op the worst case scenario that then going to happen on our side, right? But even if there will be no social discussion, even if my first speaker already preempted to you, first, at least we save people and preventing eating disorder symptoms and not triggering these people who have eating disorders, right? But then secondly, talk shows in TV or like some other website that is preventing these eating disorders will still happen and trigger the social discussion and awareness between this community and society in the status quo, right? Notice that on our side, not only we save more people, we also enable social discussion to make people aware of these problems, that this is true. This eating disorder is true and we must aware for it, and not like side opposition who still want to like trigger it more and more, right? But the concern with this content creator will lose their jobs. First, a content creator who make content who trigger bad harms for people that will affect them in a long term is still not justified, panels. But then secondly, even if the worst case scenario, those content creators lose their job, we still champion on two things. First, the quality. We make better quality on the content in the internet. We filter them, because my first speaker's second argument, by providing these policies and regulation, those websites, those social media will be putting more incentive to filtering those content that enable eating disorders, right? Notice that we make a better content quality on our side, inside the website, inside the internet, right? But then secondly, we champion on the quantity. We save many people, which is the audience or people who see this kind of content, meaning that we cover more and more of like the vulnerable people on our side of the house. Notice that this is important because these people, the audience, the netizens, or whoever who have an unstable mood, unstable mental health, that showing symptoms of in eating disorders, are the one who will want to protect, are the one who is the vulnerable actors that we should protect under we can protect under our bench, right? Notice that thirdly, I'm going to compare our bench and with other bench and explaining why we still win this debate, right? First, on OO, they never give you any step-by-step analysis. Second, all of their argument is not based on what is happening in the status quo, right? They think that eating disorder is just like something is not important, which is not, right? But then thirdly, they only play on their best case scenario and never come up with their worst case scenario that will happen, guaranteed happen on their side of the house, right? So then CG and CO will actually have the burden of proof why on their side they will like make a better content, a quality, and save more people, which is the vulnerable itself, who have and who like who will be the eating disorders under side opposition. Therefore, so proud on OG.
Okay, time spent by the second speaker of the opening government is 7 minutes 34 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes 34 seconds. Next, to close the case for the opening opposition, please welcome to the second speaker of the opening opposition with Ms. Anisha Shahwa. Time is yours.
Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to respond to Miss Deputy Leader of Government, but Miss Deputy Prime Minister. You did said that your argument championed on the quantity of eating disorders and how the algorithm and all of the arguments that my leader of opposition has said is not only see in the best scenarios, while you saying that you saying quantity, we are the intention of you saying those arguments is to decrease the rate of eating disorders, right? You are saying that we should ban the websites for the nation's good, for the people, for the citizen, for the humanity rights. Did the opening government defined that why is the website is so crucial, and why is it only websites that is banned to enable such a proliferation of eating disorders of a certain mental condition? In here, I'm saying that if you ban websites, I'm saying that in the worst case scenario, if the government did, in example, ban websites as in social media that enables the proliferation of eating disorders that you have said, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those social medias that people have used. You ban websites in the intention of making people feel safe with this topic, with this certain eating disorder. Banning social media have a lot of bad impact also. If you only pick a solution to finish one mistake, it only worsen on the other scenarios, because if you basically my point here is that if your intention is to decrease the rate of eating disorder, is to make people safe, is to make people not get infected and not get triggered by this certain mental condition that is eating disorder, why do you have to ban the whole website? Can you please explain why do you want to ban like the actual whole website? No, thank you. The whole website that that you want to make to decrease the quantity of this certain people that are triggered with this mental condition, because we can try to try and make another law rules that can make them, those crew behind the social medias, those producers, those people that work in the social media department can get the law and make it filtered out of which one is the actual considered proliferation of eating disorder that actually have bad impact on the citizens, and which one is actually the ones that is good for us. And I understand that, for example, mukbang or other maybe
people a video of people eating in a giant amount of food, or like dietary, all of that is considered entertainment nowadays. But that's the thing, because we are filtered. Yes, sir.
Look, don't you realize when we say this will trigger, when we say that this will trigger an incentive for companies to filter their content so that they don't get banned because they don't want to lose their companies in the very first place?
I'm sorry. You're saying that what? You give an idea that that the crew behind the social media have to filter what? I'm sorry, I don't get what your point is.
So you say that it's not good for us to ban the whole social media, but don't you realize when we say that this will trigger an incentive for companies to filter their content so that they don't get banned because they don't want to lose their company at the very first?
So you're saying it's fine to not ban them? Are you saying it like that?
We say that if they not filter it.
If they not filtered it, so you're saying that your argument triggers some people to not filter, to filter them to not get banned. Yes, is that your point? Is that your point? Yes, okay. Well, okay. That's what I said before, that how law rules, we can make like a new rule for the crew to make them filtered and forbid content that is sensitive for the citizens on the department of their mental condition. Because in here, social media is pretty toxic in all ways, but the intention here is that we are making people mentally, oh sorry, I didn't notice you. No, thank you. And also, if you want to ban websites and only websites, there are other platforms such as like in real life method of proliferation of eating disorders, such as if you go to the mall and then it will promote dietary, or it will have like an eating contest, it will trigger people in eating disorders. So social media here is not the only platform that can trigger them into what this mental condition is. And so basically, yes, if your full intention is to decrease the rate of eating disorder, is to make people safe, is to assure them that it's okay to not have a healthy body and not have the perfect and slim body that is the standard of the beauty nowadays. Why don't you just ban all of the things that enables the proliferation of eating disorders? Why only websites like that? And that's all for my point. Thank you. Good.
Okay, time spent by the second speaker of the opening appreciation is 7 minutes, 18 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes, 18 seconds. Next, to open the case from the closing government, I would like to invite the first speaker of the closing government with Ms. Kirina Nazwara Raihani. Time is yours.
So, hello, am I audible? Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, opposition bench doesn't have a clear stance on what should they establish under their world. Who will they impact in the future, their livelihoods, everything. Instead, they keep mumbling about algorithms because it is not like that, it is not like this. Panels do realize their interest was never to save the current proximity that happens in the status quo. But also, if they do so, they were not able to co-opt this anyhow. They won't save those mislead people floating around in the internet. Their points have fallen, especially since they cannot actually understand what is the motion is. Yes, there are other platforms, but this is about the motion on the social media over the website itself. And then the second, they don't understand even what the other person POI is. It is about their banning is the incentive for company to re-regulate their filters. It is what we as the opposition would want to by banning social websites that enables the proliferation of eating disorders. Government bench proudly proposes a debate with pride. What am I going to discuss in my speech are three things. First of all, where CG or closing government wants and demands. The second is what CG opt for the change, and third is the likelihood of lessening people getting these eating disorders by following a certain way of life and thus self-diagnose with cure, perpetrating to the opposite of end of the spectrum. We are lessening this likelihood of people just following or even self-diagnosing with this disorder and such, curing them with the extreme way possible just because the other person said so, the other person wrote so on this kind of websites on the social media. First, what are our models looks like? First, a world with less people self-suffering a diagnosis, a disorder crisis. How does this look like? People tend to believe everything they see in social media. This leads to over-perpetuating the statements quoted on the websites, i.e. like those buzzers quoted as 7 tanda-tanda kamu menderita depresi or things like that, or like this is the 7 ways of you to have lose weight. This is the 7 way or other diet thing that you would just pack it up on the website, and thus people will believe it without an actual degree on actual backing and actual facts on the internet. And then, well, the one that would diagnose should be professionals, psychologists and such, not random Instagrammer or people that will just give you this diet plan or something like that, or in the threats of terror that is being complied with a lot of sources that sometimes are just really weird and just out of the way of the internet, just random Google sources that you would taken out of context on the context of eating disorders. Second, we will create a solid form of platform. Only one website, if those websites are banned, that will like unconsciously exterminate those unreliable sources. So how do we illustrate this? This visualized as how under our site platform will be created by groups of psychologists, technocrats, doctors, former sufferer, patient that is intact within the particular phenomenon or disorders that they are with, that is also in line with the government bodies, so that we solidify the form into one, eliminating unreliable sources that sometimes are perceived by the people that would like self-diagnose or just randomly blindly following themselves within the social website that has already existed. This is going to be more efficient and reliable since it is created by those professionals. Therefore, it is reliable, doubted patients could just easily look up those IG like that, this kind of website, disorder.com or something like that we will create it, and the research identify the symptoms or even go on to have diet plans or planning because they have the eating disorder, or they are just regular people that do not want their diet plan to just go out of the way and make them eating disorders, right? So our stances are we would ban the social websites that enable the proliferation of eating disorders, lessening the trigger of the people that actually watches them. And then the second is we create a single solid website or platform to reform the trust of the society. If it is those we are banning the social websites in the first place. Now, I don't think the opposition clearly understand, but social websites are online platform where everyone can be anything. That includes self-proclaimed people that have diet plans or cookbooks, i.e. they are making a way of life for people to follow with no degree or experience behind it. Social websites reach and followed by so many people by our youth, and thus bring a bad eating pattern to be implemented in our youth's mind, because parents are what makes so eating disorders now the major issue on the internet. They are disorder which people have unnatural patterns of eating. One of the signs is that it can be apparent in their body shape, either obese, eating too much, or underweight, too little, anorexia, etc. That most are taking profit out of it. It is somewhat a mental health issue in the first place because it is the causation of food-related abuse, right? Because they don't have a good relationship with food in the first place, and now they are easily triggered by other people on the internet that perpetuates this kind of proliferation of eating disorders on our social websites. And then the third, our people or media consumers tend to sometimes believe everything. Now, that social websites are not the right place to spread the eating disorder or even tell people because the opposition stated about the safe place and how they are together, etc. like that. These are not the space for that discomfort people get. We can see it that this is for awareness, but don't you think that this is a way different fields to be implied with? We think it is not suitable and ineffective due to the abundance of misinformation and the virality of this misinformation. Spread your safe place on actual safe platforms. We do not get to this type. And then we believe enabling proliferation of eating disorders is the same as having KYS, BIM content, since it is also enables a dangerous way of life. And it is why it is important, ladies and gentlemen, including on the mental health aspect of eating disorder. OG pretty much cleared out the background pretty well, because surely back then, websites have problems with these issues, right? And they were non-activated as well after heavy ban and heavy press. As such, eating disorders are as important and being in the limelight more than ever. And if they have still enabling, those will be banned until further improvement in the website's regulation, and will be moved to our side of websites that we've established, which you could also, yes, make a safe space there if you want to. And then it would, if those regulations are being changed or time out, it would be back into the unban. Thank you very much. That is what we propose as the closing statement.
Okay. Time spent by the first speaker of the closing government is 7 minutes, 32 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes, 32 seconds. Next, to open the case from the closing opposition, I would like to invite the first speaker of the closing opposition with Ms. Galena Humaria. Time is yours.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the member of opposition of the House. The website itself, it doesn't actually force you to do like such strict diet so that you could get eating disorder. Like, so it's actually your own choice whether you want to follow it or not. It's not the website's fault. Yes, people who are underage, children, teenagers could be easily affected by this kind of websites, but not with adults. They know what is right and what is wrong, and they know how to make the best decision for their own life. So what we can do is that instead of banning the websites, we could just set an age limit for those websites, for those people who want to access the website. So only adults who can access it. Basically, it's the website's reader body. They have the right to decide on what they want to do with their own body. They know what they want for themselves, and also everybody have the right to post their thoughts, their opinion, or everything that they wanted in social media or any websites. There's no doubt that there are words or websites out there that's promoting negative things such as porn websites or gambling websites and many more. And this kind of websites have been around for so long now. It's clear that these websites are bringing so many negative impacts to the internet users, but still there are still lots of these negative websites spread everywhere. Instead, your time for useful things, the ones that can actually give benefits to your own life, this kind of stuffs aren't really just happening on social media. It's often happening in our real world. For example, drugs. There are a lot of people spreading drugs, but many people are avoiding them because they know that it's bad for them. It's not good for them, and for websites. That is why there's or it's the users or the readers who are obligated to use the internet and accessing websites more wisely. So it's not fully the website's fault. And that is why instead of banning them, it's better if we set an age limit to access the websites instead. That was all my argument. Thank you.
Okay. Time spent by the first speaker of the closing opposition is 3 minutes, 22 seconds. I repeat, 3 minutes, 22 seconds. Next, to close the case from the closing government, I would like to invite the second speaker of the closing government with Mr. Muhammad Junior Zain. Time is yours.
Hello, I'll have a minute to properly revise my note and refill my water bottle because I'm out of water. Mau ambil air. I would just like quickly check if am I audibly responsive. Am I audible?
Yes, loud and
Thank you so much. My POI preference is by unmuting yourself. So you can just like unmute your audio and say POI. Jadi kalau mau POI di unmute, it's okay. For me, I'm fine by it. Feel free to just cut me off if I started to cut off at any point. Gender pronouns are he, him, by the way. Starting my speech in, am I, oh, okay. Starting my speech in Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. What do you want? What do you mean? Opposition benches. Yes, I'm talking to you, OONCO. You demand, but you didn't resolve. Chair, whether that opposition benches failed miserably to prove to us any likelihood, any logical reasoning on why this issue should not be lifted anyhow, any clearance or obstacles coming through under the roof, even if we're taking them at their best, even we even could slay the slightest bit of OONCO's case. Oh wait, that makes us win anyway, right? They lose this debate. But let's be charitable and play under their base case wonderland, or we slope down under their quote-unquote convincing algorithm. We simply suffice today's debate because we fulfill the resources that's being conceded hanging around quite often under opposition benches, under opposition. I'm going to convene simply under two areas of speech under my debate today. Is that first, the outcomes that we support to fulfill, but second, the problems that occurs within under CG, under our side of the house. But before going on to my responses and substantives, what are the comparative questions that happen within today's debate? Is that first, which side will like save people with like eating disorders that leads to not self-diagnose themselves, to not repress themselves from the society because of their quote-unquote hideous symptoms? They will make society even better. So under our side of the house, we clearly like gave you a more of like a world that is being lifted, or is being evolved and changing. Clearly, what my MOG have pretty much told you. Before going on to, then I'm going to integrate that furthermore onto my substantives. Few responses toward opposition benches coming from OO first. They told about like they don't have like what OG told you that under their side of the house, they don't have regulations, but still, it still floats. They haven't tackled this at all. Algorithms, people still can't believe and think clearly. Look, don't you think that people will actually have the rational calculus to do so? If they are actually that awake to do so, then this motion wouldn't came up and appear in the very first place, right? I think the main rational calculus that did not appear in this debate is coming from OO. But also, let's talk about how the problems that appears thirdly, about how they talk about like, what's good for themselves. Social media is not the only platform to spread the awareness. Three responses to this is that one, not all people is that awoke to revoke their thoughts like what you demand in the very first place. But second, then you just basically support what government just proved to you in this debate. You clearly don't even establish your very own clear stand in this debate. Within your under your side of the house, you never clearly revoke anything and any stances on what will happen in your side of the house. Third response, under our side of the house, we clearly expand and we clearly like sweep out the problems and the thoughts that they really want to convene under their speech. They told you about how, they will know what's good for themselves because we acknowledge what is that good for themselves problem that happens under their case. We also acknowledge like technocrats and although other government bodies, those psychologists, those psychiatrists, doctors, former sufferer and patients of these like eating disorders phenomenon to happen, like what my MOG have already told you, we create something that is being very different under OG, is that we create a new platform, a single solitude website, i.e. called say like diagnosis.com, in which it is being particularly being supported and implied within the technocrats that happen within the world that revolves today. They clearly neglect these stances being brought by my MOG, talking about how basically these people are being that insensitive. So we desensitize, dehumanize, and those people that are not aware of the problem that happens today. So basically, that clearly means that under even OO told you that, it is basically because of the algorithms. They talk about rights, but then they never actually tackle down on how the quote unquote rights will like have those benevolent impacts in the near future. So we say under CO, you cannot co-opt this anyhow. So how are you going to actually play on your debate anyhow? We don't see on opposition benches clearly even neglect the main case that happens within the burden of proof that they created in the very first place. But let's talk about my first substantives. I'm going to further integrate what CO told you in my speech. I'm going to talk about how under our side of the house we gave you a more like we solve the tangible problems that occurs within these social websites to promote those of like that sort of like the problems that social eating disorders appear. Sometimes we say that even my MOG already pretty much explained. Sometimes it is unreliable. I.e. like let's talk about like buzzers, like those tanda-tanda kamu terkena depresi, like what my member of government have already told you. This pretty much like tends to believe most of like the citizens that have been characterized by my MOG, that because like a lot of people tends to believe everything that is being resolved in social media. Those of like people that believe those buzzer threats like 7 tanda-tanda depresi cannot filter out. They basically like clearly have the little possibility and chances to do research outside of those like social websites. So under our social house, we limit those people to like actually like be to create a false reality that they sort of to live in. Like what OG pretty much told you, that people have pretty much want to follow through what is there being happening in the social media. They tend to like self-diagnose themselves and feel that they have like some sort of affinities and like traits that they have like like some sort of like eating disorder, for example, if they are suffering through quote unquote false bulimia or anorexia. That's why under our side of the house, we eliminate those sources and we create a one single reliable sources. This is going to be even better because we lessen the uncertainties of unreliable sources being compiled into the social media. That is why under CG, we acknowledge these kinds of problems because we think that social media, the social websites that is being implied and imported under side opposition is pretty much not a suitable platform to compile and convene those ideas and thoughts. We create a new platform like i.e. like disorders.com. So like if you do have the symptoms that you try to perceive on, you try to like give the affinities on, we say that under our service, you're going to solve it even better. Because of why? Because you have a reliable sources, a single reliable sources that's being compiled under those professionals. This does not make you self-diagnose yourself about the things that happen. But moving on to my second clash about how basically we protect the effectiveness of like these rights and etc. Now OO told you like don't you about how their quote unquote rights are not egotistical. They said that they don't mean it like that. They don't limit it like this because of the algorithm. Look, don't you think that because we limit the provision of like promotion, they talk about algorithm, congratulations, we fix your algorithm right away because we ban them. You don't even know how to co-opt this anyhow. So pretty much I don't even know what to talk to you in this debate because they're pretty much MOO never clearly established what's going to happen under their side of the house. Therefore, under our side, we create and demolish their thoughts. We believe that under our side of the house, even though CO is laughing pretty much, we're going to win this debate. Very proud to propose.
Okay, time spent by the second speaker of the closing government is 7 minutes, 27 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes, 27 seconds. Next, to close the case from the closing opposition, I would like to invite the second speaker of the closing opposition with Ms. Lyle Trifena JN. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the change. So good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen here. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Lyle Trifena Josephine, and I'm as the opposition whip of this house. And first of all, I want to rebuttal the recent speakers' arguments first. So they're said about, let's see what first point I want to say here. You said that why this negative, you said this eating disorder is a bad things and why it must be pop up in the websites, right? And you said you talk about the platform and anything else like you and according like your before the government arguments talking about like content creator make the content about eating disorder and anything else, but I want to say it here, you know, this world is getting worse each day. This world getting worse each day. That things always pop up in this nowadays, you know, like, you know what, you can choose what good things, what right things for yourself. Like you know, like there's so many websites is worse than eating disorder. Like why this eating disorder must be banned from the websites or the social media, and why it's, I know this motion talking about eating disorder, but look at there are more things worse that you can see out there, like pornography or sexual harassment or drugs or gambling or anything else. Eating disorder is, for me, eating disorder is not that big problem that you can see that can make someone is having bad. But I know it makes people doing something bad, like they're doing a diet streak or they eating too much giant person and uncontrolled. No, thank you. But as you can see here, like you know, wait. And this nowadays, like why you should focus, don't take focus and at that websites who telling that eating disorder is have to ban from that website. Like like I'm gonna talking about if FYI on TikTok, you can just scrolling and scroll it, like there's always bad things like always pop up in your life, like no, there's no no, it's never gonna have a good things in your life, like no 100% is always supposed to be like in our life live in two sides, like in bad sides and good sides. And you know what, it's, if you think is eating disorder is a bad side and you have to ban it from, no thank you, and you think if you have to ban it from the websites, you can be wise and smart citizens, like how to use your phone, your gadget, your laptop wisely, like you can see what good things for yourself, then don't just focus on that. If you see that eating disorder on the websites, just you can take it for yourself, and if you're smart, no thank you, and if you smart, you can like just ignore it. But and if you attract and interested with that websites, and you can know about yourself, and when you get stressed and you read that websites, and maybe it make you getting your condition getting worse because you read that website, there are always no thank you, there are always people who care about yourself, like you have people like can help yourself to get up from that bad condition, like if you depression, no thank you, and you depression and you that you read that website, and you doing that bad things to your body, and your body get worse, and you get or something else bad things happen to yourself. It's everything is up to yourself, like no thank you. If you can see like this website, there are more thing like websites is there's always good things, like this in this world we cannot push that everything good in the internet. You have to see that in the internet is you can see the good things for yourself, and when you see like the pornography and prostitution website, and you can see anything else bad, and why there is still no thank you, why there is still up here on the website, like you cannot push the internet to always show the good things or good vibes for yourself. No thank you, and you can take for yourself that the two things, like you can search something good, or even if you're just think it by yourself, like think twice and wisely, like if you already use, I know in this nowadays nowadays world we use internet like 19%, no thank you, 90% of our life, and I know like everything is, our mindset is focused on the website. But in this occasion, I just want to use, and just want to say that being a good citizen and citizens who internet user, and no thank you. I think as we are right now that internet user, as every time every day we see websites on internet, we can filter it by ourselves. No thank you, we can filter it by ourselves, like we can see like what should I follow, what should I see, what should I do for myself, like for my own self, just take care for ourselves. So I don't think so that bad things is always appear, and I think, and I know that that's not only this eating disorder websites which appear in the website, that bad to yourself. So just being wisely and smart citizens, like I think like this if this website has a bad impact for yourself, like and if you see what can get happen if you read that website, and what the impact for your body, and you feel it, and and if you're doing this bad things, and you feel and if you feel it by yourself, like why I should follow this eating disorders websites, why this guide me to this to this bad condition for myself, and you know, and then you think, and you then think, then you have to your mindset can be changing, like just pretend that websites is not affected and not impact for yourself, like you know, okay, even there is I'm just focused on myself and what good things that I can observe from the internet for myself. So I think it's only that for my argument. Thank you.
Okay, time spent by the second speaker of the closing appreciation is 7 minutes, 50 seconds. I repeat, 7 minutes, 50 seconds. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the adjudicator decision, please the contestant wait on this room for 15 minutes. We will give the adjudicator time to decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ka. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kak.
Was great.
Jangan,
Thank
Thank you
Great.
so much, Kak Jojo.
guys, jangan keluar dari ruangan ini dulu. Tidak perlu keluar, kita tunggu di sini saja.
Today.
Oke, Kak.
Sorry.
Wujud tak.
模在我不会因为什么
Maganda umaga, Kak.
你有没有为什么那样啊
Stop.
Hello everyone.
Yes. Mr.
Okay, before I give my oral education and tell you what is the rank for each what is the rank from fourth until the first rank. I would like to do a roll call first, starting from the open government. Are you guys here?
Yes, we're here, Kak.
Opening government.
Yes, we're here, Kak.
Okay. Opening opposition. Are you guys here?
Yes, sir, we're here.
Okay. Closing government. Are you guys here?
Hi, Ka, we're here and complete.
Okay. Thank you. And then the last one, closing opposition. Are you guys here?
Yes, you're here. Complete.
Okay. So I'm going to separate this into two sections. The first one, I'm going to give to tell you guys the rank. I'm going to tell you guys the rank, and then after that the second section will be the reasons behind all the rank that I'm going to give to all of you guys. Well, first of all, before I tell you guys the rank, when we're talking about these motions is actually talking about banning a website, and there are several definition of banning. For example, banning means that you are not able to access the websites anymore, or the second one, banning means that the websites are going to be exterminated or eradicated from the world, something like that. And most of the debate that happens today, what I see is that you guys agreeing on the second one, as if the websites are going to be exterminated if they are not meeting several terms and conditions that were given by the opening government. Now, how this debate has been going so far, especially from the government side. On the government side, it's quite overwhelming, but on the from the opposition side of the house, it's quite underwhelming, and I will tell you guys later. Now, moving on to the rank. On the fourth rank, I give this to the opening opposition. The third rank, I give this to the closing opposition. The second rank, I give this to the opening government. And the first rank, I give this to the closing government. Now, why? Now, let's move on to the first one. Why the opening opposition are slightly not any better compared to all the other teams exist. First of all, it's actually like this because like most of the teams from the government side say that the opening opposition not having a clear stance, not having a clear stance, and having a clear goals on what is the thing that they are trying to pursue, that they are trying to achieve here. Is that making a good social media, or is that making a healthy environment for all the audience? There's no clear mechanizations as well on the opening opposition, so that's why we put opening opposition on the fourth. And also from the opening opposition, most of the times opening oppositions trying to justify that the websites, it's not the website's fault, it's not the website that we should blame here, in which they, most of the times the opening opposition blame the society for most of the times the opening opposition trying to put the essence of fault, the essence of blame for the society, for not for not for the society, and neglecting the fact that most of the government sides of the house mentioned, like, it happens subliminally, in which subliminally means that it happens unconsciously. People are doing that unconsciously because of that they are affected, and slightly because of that, because the justification that cannot be justified at all, the opening opposition are given the first rank. Now, continued from that, why the closing opposition is slightly better than compared to the opening opposition. Well, the closing opposition, even though most of the times the closing opposition are focusing on the what is that? Even though closing opposition most of the times do what is it? A repetitive arguments or repetitive substantives presented by the previous opening opposition. It's really clear that we can see the closing opposition actually offer a new kind of mechanization in their bench in which by limiting the access of adults by limiting the access of children for not being able to access certain websites that exist, and they are trying to tell to all the panels that by limiting the access only for adults means that all the adults have the higher education, means that the adults can actually differentiate which one is good, which one is not good. And also from the closing opposition, they also mentioned that by doing all this means that people can use internet wisely, people can use the platform wisely, but it's not it's not clear how all these things going to be achieved, how all these things going to be how all these things going to be happened. Even though in the week also they mentioned about the existence of the existence that people most of the times they are able to search and compare, but later on all this argument were being tackled by the by the opening government and that's why we put the opening government on the second rank. And why opening government are on the second rank? First of all, even though the opening government already explained the whole debate decently, but most of the times there is no clear there's a surface there's a certain thing that is not being touched by the opening government and which being touched by the closing government. Now, even though there's step-by-step analysis how this eating disorder going to happen, for example, by saying that it happens because of the praise, and people tend to believe that, and people tend to have the tendency to want all those praise to be given to them. All those explanations were actually great, but what is that? And also about the but most the policies and the outcome that were mentioned by by the opening government doesn't cover is not covering most of the it's not solving most of the problems, like the mechanization that were given by the closing government. So that's why the OG is slightly that's why the closing government is slightly better compared to the opening government, even though most of the credits that I see from the closing government are the idea or are the analysis that were taken from the opening government, especially from the idea of how people have the tendency to believe, and how people have the tendency to follow. Most of the times it's been explained by the opening government, but still on the closing government side of the house, lots of lots of idea comes, lots of new framing came, and that's why we put closing government on the first rank. Like the first one, when we're talking about the idea of the likelihood to self-diagnose, that the idea that not all people have the rational calculus to actually to actually able to think which one is wrong or which one is right. Most of the people are likely to believe what they see on the internet, and but it doesn't stop there, especially when it comes to the mechanization. The closing government actually actually prove that their new frame comes with an solution absolute solution, especially for the worst scenario, scenario when the opening government's policy doesn't work. So that's why the closing government are on the first. Like the first one, the existence of one website that were being run by professionals. So in the end of the most of the society, most of the what is that? Most of the thinking or most of the thoughts that society have are based on studies, are based on data that was compiled, and compared from reliable resource. This kind of idea or this kind of mechanization really put really put CG above all other teams slightly, because these solutions comes to be the most realistic one and the most the most efficient one for the whole throughout the debate, and for the whole and to for the whole for all the worst scenario that could happen, the failure in the failure of the failure in which the opening government, that's also being mentioned by the closing government. For example, that most of the times in discussion, there's still disbelievers, but when it comes from a reliable sources, people have a tendency to believe it even more. And throughout this mechanization, also the closing government really create a healthy society in which a healthy society where the eating disorder won't happen again. So that's why the closing government are on the first rank on the second round. Okay, guys, I think that's all from me. Is there any question?
No, Kak, that's really, really clear.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Baik, kita
thank you so much, everyone. Good luck on the next round. I hope you guys are having fun. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Kak.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. 谢谢.
Thank you.
You.
Statement for the winner. Thank you for your attention, and please go back to the main chamber. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you in the next round.
Thank you, Kak. Leave dulu.